One thing I wish I could have got through my head sooner in life is that hard boundaries equal a soft life. I still learn that lesson, and that's what we're going to flow with today. Boundaries are like the keepers of our Zen, the defenders of our dynasty. They really empower us to step fully into our power, because if we're being suffocated and overwhelmed all the time, where we don't have the space to grow. I think about like a plant that's outgrowing its pot. You have to put it into a new pot for it to continue growing, or it's going to die. So many times we're blaming the other people when we did not set that boundary with them. A lot of ways I get mad at myself is because I didn't set that boundary. Your boundaries aren't mean. It can feel uncomfortable to set boundaries, which I am working to rewrite in my life, because it should not be uncomfortable for you to tell me what you don't like, what you feel like is wrecking your peace. And I shouldn't feel uncomfortable telling that to someone either. And boundaries are a great determinator of the way a relationship is. If someone is not receptive to your boundaries, or not respecting them, or even making a joke of you expressing them, you have to exit. You have to have that conversation, because if you can't have healthy boundaries to protect yourself and protect your peace, you're not going to grow in that relationship. You're not going to do the things that you want to do for yourself or for your life in that relationship. They're necessary. As people pleasers, if you've struggled with people pleasing, that's one of the biggest things that we lacked was boundaries. We had no boundaries. We let other people just walk all over us and push us to our limits, and we're not doing that anymore. We are not doing that anymore. We don't have to be mean. You don't have to be rude. Of course not. But being assertive and expressing what you do not like and what you do like, what is good for you, what is not good for you, there's nothing mean about that. There's nothing bad about that, I promise. It can seem like it, which is crazy. But if you don't have hard boundaries, you're going to have a hard life. You're going to be exhausted. You're going to be pulled way too thin. Ugh, crazy, crazy, crazy. It can be so simple. It really can, the more that we empower ourselves. We're worthy of protecting who it is we are. We're worthy of having a space where we can grow and thrive and flourish. Especially as we start, finding good relationships. When we find these people who we love and we want to keep in our lives and we want to grow with, even when we love them, we have to have boundaries. And they're not bad, they're healthy. It's important. Hard boundaries, soft life, baby. Truth be told. I'm trying to think of a like little parable that could go along with that. Kind of like if you dig a hole, if you want a pond, you have to dig a hole in the grass so that the water can pile up in there. If you don't dig the hole, you're not going to have the pond. Sure, you'll have puddles and little areas of water, but you're not going to have the pond that you want. And you won't have the pond that you want unless you dig the hole. So you have to dig the hole. You have to set the boundaries. As we start advancing in our journeys and our lives and in our creativity, we start bringing things to life. It's kind of like think about giving birth. You can't be in a high stress environment with tons of people all around you when you're giving birth. It's the same thing with creating ideas and bringing them to life. You have to have that sanctuary of space, and you deserve that all the time. We deserve that every moment of every second of every day. It doesn't mean that our boundaries aren't going to be crossed, or we're not going to cross someone else's boundaries. We can't get mad, though, when we haven't expressed those boundaries. That's the hardest part. That is truly the hardest part, is really expressing the boundary. It's super easy to get mad after the fact when, your loved one crosses your boundary, but you have to check yourself. Did I articulate that properly? I have done that plenty of times, I promise. Like, even thinking about it, I just want to cringe because I get mad at someone I love, but I didn't tell them that I have this boundary where I need to be alone often, and I will tell you when I need to be alone, and I need you to respect that. But remember that your boundaries aren't mean, they're beautiful. And it's never too early or too late to express a boundary to someone. You could just meet someone, and if you want to, you tell them your boundary. Like, I don't text back all the time. And that's a boundary I have to protect my peace and to not be overstimulated or exhausted. Or if you've been in a relationship with someone for a long time and you're deciding, I want to set this boundary where if I don't want to do the household chores, I'm not going to do them until I want to. And that can lead to a conversation. Sometimes your boundaries, you don't understand your boundaries, and you might need to bounce it off someone so that you have a clearer understanding of what your boundaries actually are. Boundaries are it, baby. Boundaries. And when you start walking in that power and maintain that consistency of boundaries, you're signaling to yourself that I really respect who I am. I really respect what I need. And I'm willing to make sacrifices and be uncomfortable to allow my whole self to thrive. Ooh, yummy. You don't have to run away from situations or run away from people. All we really have to do is start articulating our boundaries properly. And like we flowed with, sometimes they're a signal of who is good to be close to you and who's not, who needs to grow. And you never know what having that boundary conversation can do in your life. Everyone, every human being, adult, kid, child, whatever it is, has boundaries, right? Everyone has boundaries. Everyone has a space. We all have bodies. We all have minds. We all have souls. And maybe, and we need to learn as we go through life what it is that disrupts that energetic flow, that state of peace. And we express that. And we can teach each other and learn from each other, what a healthy boundary is, what you maybe need to start setting boundaries for, or how to express them. Those are the conversations I want to have in my life where we talk about, I realize that I have a boundary with, screen time or something like that. And talking about how you can go about those conversations in a healthy and natural way. Boundaries are an emotional kind of topic, honestly, because a lot of triggers have to do with boundaries. When we get triggered by something, usually it has something to do with a boundary. And we can learn so much from that space. But we have to remember that boundaries aren't mean. You're not a biatch or something like that for expressing where your boundaries are. It's a beautiful thing to be able to, create a safe space for yourself. And we can get really taken away with life, but when we have these set boundaries, we know that we're going to honor ourselves no matter where we go. We're going to reach our goals no matter where we go. And we have to realize that our boundaries are really going to help us do that. Whether you write them down, you talk about them, you even just think about them. Sometimes it's fun to just think about, how can I honor myself more? How can I create more nourishment and growth in my life? And use boundaries as a basis for that. Heck yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you so much for flowing with this. And I would love to hear in the comments, what's your journey with boundaries? Have you always had firm boundaries? Are you stepping into, maintaining healthy boundaries? We all have different relationships to these kind of things, and that's so fascinating to me. And I would love to hear what your journey kind of is with that. Personally, if I could sum it up, I really struggled to set boundaries. I didn't have any boundaries for a lot of my life. I just really loved to respect other people's boundaries without setting my own. I would get very exhausted. When people would get close to me, I would get very triggery because they were crossing boundaries that I did not express, that I didn't even really know existed, that I was denying pretty much. And it goes along with the persona I was trying to hold on to, you know, just chill and that kind of stuff. And I learned that I can still be that by maintaining healthy boundaries. It's kind of inevitable, you know, you're either you're going to express your boundaries and have them, or you're going to act like you don't, and it's going to lead you where it needs to lead you. But now I'm still on the journey with creating them healthily and expressing them, you know, fluidly and naturally. Thank you so much, babes. Thank you for being here. I hope you have a beautiful, magical day, and I'll see you on the next one.